thanking all of you for showing up. There are some other folks that we owe some real gratitude to. First, our sponsor for this evening, Kleenex. Thank you for supporting us through the last 9 months and beyond. We could not have done it without you. I know that probably half of the teachers who have worked with me have bets on how long it will take before I need my Kleenex. And I'm hoping that I'm betting that I am probably not the only one. But a real thank you to the Covenant Foundation, who just constantly encourages us to find ways to bring women together meaningfully, especially now. And to the Avi Foundation, who does this work daily, being half in Israel and half here in the US and figuring out how to be the bridge to both. Thank you all. Gratitude is a funny word to use tonight. It's hard to feel grateful when it feels like something's been sitting on my chest for the last 270 days. But I am, truly. I am so grateful just for this small thing of being together with you, because I find that I get lost sometimes, and it's hard to hang on to and find hope. But when I open this Zoom room, when I see your faces, when I read your Instagram messages and your emails, you remind me to hope. And that's completely what community is about, because it has to get better. It just has to. So that's what tonight is: a collective hug, a group prayer. I did okay for a little while. And a promise to remind each other that it will get better, because that's what community is for, to convince each other and remind each other to hang on. So an enormous last thank you to Rabbanit Dalia Davis and Rabbanit Elisa Sperling for bringing us all together tonight, and so many other SVIVAH nights. You gather us in ways that hold our hearts and teach us to hold each other better. Thank you for bringing us together for this. We so needed it. Thank you to our beautiful teachers and to Rabbanit Dr. Liz Shane and Emily Bell and Hannah Staub and Lila Sachs for being the back end of making all of this go together so smoothly. Thank you guys all for being here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. For the past 9 months, the same phrase from the Torah has been running through my mind. Imo anochi b'tzara. I am with him in his suffering, or I am with her in her suffering, or I am with them in their suffering. I thought about this phrase from Psalm 91 when the slow trickle of information came towards me on October 7th, and then flooded me on all the days since. It came to my mind as I started to learn about the shocking number of hostages that were stolen from their families and from their lives, and as I got to learn more about how incredible each of them is. It came to my mind as I began to recite their names every Friday night when I light the Shabbat candles. And I've been asking myself for months, what does it mean to be with them in their suffering? Clearly, I am not with them physically and cannot begin to comprehend their suffering, nor that of their family members. But for the last 9 months, my heart has been broken. How many of us have cried inconsolably for people that we have never met? How many of us think about the hostages at all times of the day? How many of us, Ariel, I'm with you. How many of us start our days opening our phones and hoping to see images of them in Israel being embraced by their family members? I wonder if being with them in their suffering might mean that as long as they are in pain, so am I. And as long as they are not free, my heart cannot feel whole. As Ariella, Aliza, and I were thinking about tonight's program, we had 2 visions that at first seemed like they might be at odds with each other. We wanted to honor the hostages, to get to know them better, to lift up their gifts, to sit with them front and center in our hearts, and to be with them in their suffering in whatever way we possibly could. But we also know that all of us have been going through such an emotionally exhausting and devastating 9 months, and we need to come together and we need to heal. And we wondered, could we possibly do both? Could we both honor the hostages and create a space for healing? And the answer that came to us was yes. Yes, we could. So tonight we are going to both honor the hostages and hold them in our hearts. And we're going to look to them and the gifts that they have given the world as pathways to allow us to process everything that we are feeling and as pathways towards healing. We are going to learn from them, and we're going to find ways to strengthen ourselves and to breathe more deeply so that we can be ready to please God, welcome them home with open arms. May any healing that we experience here tonight be in their merit, and may the next program that we host be a celebration of their return. Tonight we have the opportunity to explore healing modalities, and you'll get to have the healing modality that you choose to explore. We're also going to gather in small groups and to share and to listen to one another in connective circles. I'll share more details about all of that later on tonight. First, though, we are going to begin our night with Torah. The Torah of resilience, the Torah that can help carry us through this pain and help us understand this moment with greater perspective. We are blessed to have the opportunity to learn from Rabbi Avi Killip. Rabbi Avi is the Executive Vice President of Hadar. She is a graduate of Hebrew College Rabbinical School and a Wexner Graduate Fellow and a Schuster Fellow. She teaches at Hadar and hosts this podcast. She is an insightful teacher who combines soulfulness and Torah learning, and I'm so grateful to you, Rabbi Avi, for sharing your Torah with us tonight. For Rabbi Avi's full bio, please see the chat.
Thank you so much, Dalia. You can hear me? Everyone can hear me? Yeah. I'm Rabbi Avi Killip. As Dalia said, I'm the Executive Vice President of Hadar, and much more importantly for this context, I'm a person who is so grateful for SVIVAH and for the spaces you have carved out for women over the years, which I've benefited from so greatly. And I'm a person whose soul is aching, along with yours, for the return of the hostages and yearning for some way to feel their closeness and to feel closeness to God amidst this nightmare. The SVIVAH team, as always, has a way of anticipating our needs before we've even fully identified them. And that was really true for me tonight. So when Ariella invited me to open the gathering and asked me to teach something about resilience in this moment, it gave me the opportunity to really stop and acknowledge what a tall order it is right now to stay resilient. It's like all these texts that I taught on resilience during COVID. I was like, nope, none of these actually, they're not good enough and they don't speak to this moment. Like what does it look like to have hope? What does it look like to hold faith right now? So what I want to share is just briefly share two texts that have been helping me think about hope and faith. And just before we share, I'll frame. The first one is a very short passage from the book of Job. So the book of Job is obviously a place where we might be turning now for lament, for expression of a feeling that God is not the wind at our backs or that things are just getting worse and worse. Maybe it's a story we didn't used to identify with so much. But what I actually want to bring is a few verses that are offering me a thread of hope. So maybe if I can ask, someone is going to share the handout for me. And we will read together just these first few verses. Say, Ki yesh la'etz tikva. There's hope for a tree, or trees have hope. Trees offer us hope. If it's cut down, it will renew itself. Its shoots will not cease. If its roots are old in the earth and its stump dies in the ground, the Efer Yamut Gizo. At the scent of water, it will bud. This is a beautiful, if you don't read Hebrew, a beautiful poetic Mirech Maim Yifrach, poetic sounds, and produce branches like a sapling. So this is what this text means to me right now. When we see the stump of a tree, it feels like we are looking at something that is no longer alive. But this text reminds us of something that we know if we have a garden or a backyard or a park, if you've encountered a stump, which is that shoots grow up all around the roots of a tree stump, because what appears to be dormant is actually still alive below the surface, is yearning to be alive again, is yearning to grow. This language of its shoots will not cease. It's continuing to push up through the ground. And this is a powerful image for me to hold when thinking about the hostages who have yet returned home, that they are below the ground. They're out of sight. We can't see the life, but we know the life is there. They're yearning to grow again. And as soon as we can get them to sunlight and to water, the scent of water reaches them, they will again bud. And we pray to see their flowers bloom again. So that's my kavanah for tonight. As is all of our kavanah, that the hostages return home, and that while we wait and pray, maybe we can turn to the trees for hope. So I'll invite everyone tomorrow, this week, as you walk outside, as you see nature, when you see trees, to allow them to remind you of the unwillingness of a tree to die, inability to die, and remind us also that we believe that these hostages are alive and that they're coming home, and that we will see their life sprout again. So that's the first text I want to share. I have such a brief time, so I'm going to move to the second text. The second text is a modern midrash. I learned this text from Tamar Biala, who is a scholar and a teacher and the editor of the collection Dirshuni, which is a collection of modern Israeli women's midrash. If you haven't encountered it, you should definitely look it up. And the text I'm going to share is a very new text. It's actually not even included there's two collections of Dirshuni in Hebrew, and there's a collection in English. So this text is actually so new that it's was written for the 3rd edition. It's not yet published, but it was written before October 7th. Which is important to say. I'll also say that Tamar has collected many new midrashim written by Israeli women since October 7th that are stunning and terrible and heartbreaking, and I really recommend seeking them out if you can encounter them. But this midrash was written by a woman named Rivka Lubitch, who is an activist lawyer in Israel. She spends her days fighting to defend women in the Israeli rabbinic courts. Serious and important and holy work. And she also writes some really insanely beautiful and powerful midrashim. And I'll just share, I recently discovered that she also has an English language podcast now that she hosts called Voices of Women at Wartime, where she's interviewing different women about their take and their understanding of this war. So this is a midrash about how it feels, what it feels like to be in relationship with God, and how we don't feel we can have that simple, clean faith maybe that we used to have or that our ancestors had. What can faith look like for us when it can feel so far away? So just for the sake of time, I'll read for us, and I'll read in the English, just jump over to the Hebrew periodically. So this is called Faith. She's going to tell us about 3 generations and their different relationships to faith, which in Hebrew is emunah, and there will be a lot of wordplay. So she says, Dor Rishon Anshe Emunah Hayu, the first generation, the original generation, people of faith they were. And what was the faith of the first generation? Faith, emunah, which is to say truth, amen, or emet. For they saw God and his wonders at the Red Sea, and knew as the truest of truths that God is the Lord, and took us out of Egypt, and split the sea for us, like a woman who sees a friend and knows clear as day. Away for 1 second. Like a woman who sees a friend and knows clear as day that she is alive and well. As is written, and the people saw God, and they believed in God and in Moses, his servant. That is to say, they saw, they believed, they knew. So this is her description of the first generation, right? The people who were being saved from Egypt, They didn't need to have a meeting like this to talk about how to remember that God is a savior, because God was saving them, right? They saw it with their own eyes. That's a certain kind of faith, what you can see with your own eyes. And God was a friend for them, right? God was in their SVIVAH room. We don't have that luxury. So that kind of faith, although powerful and important, is not the kind of faith we can draw on right now. We're not watching God save the day. So we have to move forward in history. So she says, Dorot emtsaim af hen anshe emunah hayu. The middle generations, this next generation between then and now, they too were people of faith, but they had a different kind of faith. Ketzad, how? For they hadn't seen God and his wonders, right? Like us, they didn't see God interacting exactly in front of their eyes. Rather, faith, emunah, which is to say trust, imun. They placed their trust in the faith of their ancestors, and God is the Lord. That God is the Lord, and it was he who took them out of Egypt and split the sea for them. They trusted God in what he had done and what he would do for them in the future to come. And they would say, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shalema. I believe with perfect trust, with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah. And though he may tarry, with all of that, I will wait for him at every day to come. So this is the second middle generation, right? They don't have the direct God right in front of their eyes saving, but they have faith in what they learned from their parents, right? Their parents told him that this happened, that God is a savior, and they were able to hold on to that and say, God is a savior. That's good enough. We learned this from our parents, and therefore we believe it, and we believe it with perfect faith. And this doesn't work for us either, sadly, right? We can't operate this way anymore. We wish that we could. We have seen too much. We have been let down too often. There are too many promises that came from the previous generation that didn't hold up to be true, it's not the kind of faith we can draw on right now, perhaps. We have to draw on yet a third kind of faith. So this she calls Dor Acharon, the last generation. And now we're waiting with bated breath to find out, are we lost forever? And she says, Af hu karui anshe emunah. Even they are called people of faith. We might say, even we can consider ourselves people of faith, but ketzad, how, right? This is our question. The reason we're here tonight is to ask how can we possibly look at the world as it is, look at this situation and say that we continue to identify ourselves as people of faith, of people who believe, of people who stay hopeful. This is her answer. This generation, after all, questions the truth and questions the faith of their ancestors and does not place trust in anything. And how can a generation like this have faith? Again, I don't know if you feel this way, but I identify with this so deeply. Like, how can we trust in all the things that we used to trust in? How can we just place faith? We need something different. Ela, she offers us this, lashon omanut, faith, which is to say taking care of or caretaking, omanut. They take care of God and his Torah and raise and rear them up till God becomes the Lord and his Torah becomes Torah. As is written, as the nurse, Omain, bears the nursing babe. For the nursing babe places trust, Amun, in the nurse, Omain, and the nurse takes care, Omain, of the nursing babe, nurses her, raises her, and loves her. So for this last generation, which I will argue is us, faith becomes active, right? People keep saying this, hope is in action now. For us, faith is something that has to be nurtured. We have to choose to take care of this faith and to nurture it and to uphold it. And only when we nurture it, Omein, will the emunah, will this trust then nurture us back and be able to offer something back to us. and to hold us. So for our generation, we have to raise up God and raise up Torah. And this is our mandate and our way in maybe to faith, is to continue to invest in this faith, to nurture this faith. It's such a great word for mothers, right? To say like, oh, I have to nurture. It means doing things that make no sense. It means getting up in the middle of the night, to feed a child, because God can't feed that child. We have to feed that child. It means doing hard work out of love and care. And this is what we're doing here tonight. So I will end with a kavanah, that we are here to declare our faith and to lift up God. And I will say, God, we are calling on you to step up and to take action and to hear our prayers tonight, and to bring each and every one of these hostages home.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Avi. That was beautiful. And it really actually is like the perfect segue into what we're going to do next. As you mentioned, the idea of faith now can be about doing action. And we're going to have the opportunity now for everyone to pick an action that feels meaningful to them. It's also interesting because the word Omanut also is connected to art. And we're going to kind of use art forms as a way to take action, to strengthen our faith, to strengthen ourselves, and to approach healing. So thank you so much for that really beautiful teaching. The way that we're gonna do this next piece is that I'm gonna actually go through and introduce and highlight a number of different hostages who are connected to these healing modalities that we're gonna explore. As I'm doing so, we're also going to have the teachers of this next section introduce the different sessions that they're going to lead. And then at the end of that, we're going to open breakout rooms and allow you to select whichever room feels right for you and whichever session feels right for you. So as I'm going through and as the teachers are going through the different modalities, feel free to listen with an ear to thinking about which of these strikes you as the place that you need to be right now. So we'll start with the first room and the first hostage that I'm going to highlight. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is Carmel Gat, Carmel Bat Kinneret. She's an occupational therapist, and she was supposed to start the second year of her master's degree at Hebrew University exactly 1 week after the brutal attack by Hamas on October 7th. Former hostages held in Hamas captivity shared that Carmel was leading yoga exercises and meditations to provide fellow hostages with relief. If you can go to the next slide, please. Loved ones of Carmel Gat invited people to join yoga practice in Hostage Square to mark her 40th birthday. This practice has spread to many other communities, and we are going to explore it here tonight as well. Rabbi Dr. Jenny Solomon will be leading a room in honor of Carmel. Rabbi Dr. Jenny Solomon currently serves as a rabbi at Beth Meir Synagogue, as well as the founding director of Libi Air, Awakened Heart Community Mikvah in Raleigh, North Carolina, where she compassionately inspires her congregants as they navigate their Jewish journeys. She also serves as the spiritual director for the Hartman Beit Midrash for a new North American rabbinate. Rabbi Jenny, we are so grateful to you for being here tonight. Would you please share a bit about what your session will be?
Thank you, Rabbanit Dalia. So yes, inspired by Carmel, we are going to engage in a gentle, soulful, guided meditation and somatic practice. So no prior meditation experience or physical skill set is necessary. This is really yoga in the most expansive sense. It's a practice for everybody and every body.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jenny. Okay, so that will be our first room, Yoga for Carmel. And this is Chaim Perry. Chaim Ben Nechama, age 79 and a half. He was a father of 5, a grandfather of 13, a peace activist, and an artist. He was a charming, captivating person who loved people and possessed a generous heart. He regularly participated in activities and projects aimed at promoting coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. Chaim was a member of the Road to Recovery Association, volunteering to transport sick children from Gaza to Israel to receive medical treatment. After retiring from the army, Chaim, who is a very creative and artistic person, he's a writer, a sculptor, and a filmmaker, established and managed the White House Art Gallery in the fields of Nir Oz, displayed the works of diverse range of artists. Chaim's body is currently being held hostage in Gaza. And another artist we'd like to highlight. Next slide, please. This is Shani Louk. Shani Louk was a 22-year-old German-Israeli tattoo artist who was killed at the Nova Festival. Shani's family decided to show the world the poetic soul that Shani had and the drawing talent of the tattoo artist whose entire life was ahead of her. And so they created an art exhibit called Forever Young, Forever Art to share Shani's work. And the next slide has an image that Shani created, or a few images, yeah. Rachel Jackson will be leading an art room in honor and memory of Chaim and Shani. Rachel Jackson, owner of Binat Design, is a scribe, artist, graphic designer, and bookbinder. She studied sofrut from Jen Taylor Friedman and has been working as a soferet since 2015. Rachel has a degree in visual art from the University of Chicago and a certificate in bookbinding from the North Bennett Street School in Boston, giving her a dual perspective on Torah repair work, both the halachic ritual framework and a background in modern library conservation. Rachel, we are blessed to have you here tonight. Would you please share about your session?
Yeah, so tonight we're going to do a little bit of drawing in honor of Chaim and Shani, and around the word, either around the word he
we will also probably use the chat, and you can also just close your eyes and consider the prompts that we'll be sharing as we move through the poetry.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Okay, so the third room will be poetry. And now we'll highlight a few hostages as we head into the fourth room. This is Agam Berger. Agam Bat Meirav. She's a 19-year-old violinist who studied music in Alon, Central Israel, and is renowned for her creativity, talent, and unwavering passion. In response to this devastating event, Lior Paz, a 12th grade music student, wrote and composed a heartfelt song dedicated to Agam. Lior collaborated with Agam's close friends from school to perform this poignant tribute, including Agam's twin sister, Liam. I'm going to read you just a little stanza from the song. If we only knew how you're feeling and what you're going through. In the lake of memories, I am drowning. I hope to hear your voice again soon. We long to hear your voice. And another musician who is being held hostage, Alon Ohel. Alon Benedit, 22, is a talented pianist. His mother has brought a piano to Hostage Square, and it has words on it that say, Alon, you are not alone. People from all over come to play piano in Alon's honor on this yellow piano. And there's also a dancer we'd like to highlight. Romy Gonen. Romy Bat Meirav is a 23-year-old who loves to dance. Sweet-natured and funny, she is a talented dancer and choreographer, a medic, and a guide in the Scouts. In honor of Agam, Alon, and Romy, I will be leading a session in which you will have room to explore some of the post-10/7 music, and will experience these songs through lyrics, through their sound that these songs imbue, and through comfortable and fully accessible movement. So whether you're comfortable doing big movements or small movements in a chair, however you'd like to move, you're welcome to join. Okay. So now we're gonna post the breakout rooms, and everyone is welcome to decide which room is right for you. Okay. So again, we have a room for art, we have a room for poetry, a room for yoga, and a room for music and movement.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for Ariel and SVIVAH for making this, allowing us to be together in this pain.
I was speaking truth at the beginning. This was purely selfish. I get privileges just because I own the Zoom room. But this was, you know what it was actually? I had the privilege of being in New York and visiting and going to the Nova exhibit. And everybody afterwards was like, how was it? How was it? Was it horrible? How could you do it? And this is full confession, I'm an expert doom scroller. And so much of what was in the Nova exhibit was actually not new. And instead, I just was so grateful for being in a space where everyone else was sad. It was appropriate. And I didn't have to pretend or hold it in. Like we all do every day. Or not so much. But it's really good to be able to have space to be together. Rachel, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from your space and time.
No. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think, honestly, I feel so grateful for you for, honestly, I feel like you make a space where it really feels okay to bring where you are and who you are in this moment in a really authentic and honest way. And I think that that's really rare. So I really appreciate that.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I had a really meaningful time in my room with Rabbi Jenny, and I'm sure that all of you brought great merit to the hostages in the rooms that you were in. What we're going to do now is first have Esther Sperber come and speak to us about some of the advocacy that we can do for the hostages. And then we are going to say, then we are going to say a prayer together. Esther, here she is an architect, and you can see her bio in the chat. And she has also been one of the leaders of the movement to free the hostages in the United States.
Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to be part of this. I want to tell you a little bit about the work we've been doing and also how you can get involved and join us. When I'm going to share some slides. Right, do you see the slides?
No.
Oops.
We see your face.
That's great. That works.
Now we see it.
Okay. When we were approached right after October 7th by some of the families of the hostages that got together in Israel to be their representatives in the US or in New York, we thought about it, and very quickly we decided that what was the most important to us and kind of a really a firm direction that we were going to take was to try as much as possible, and it's quite complicated, to keep the hostage, the call to free the hostages as a politically neutral thing, not to side with, or not to tie this to any other demands, to just say, these are innocent people, they were stolen from their homes, we need to free the hostages. This isn't about all kinds of other analyses of the war and what should happen and what could happen. Let's free the hostages. And we've been working for the last 260 days in a number of ways to kind of further this. I think what the scariest thought for us and for the families is that these people will somehow be forgotten, that, you know, things will happen and we'll move on, and this issue won't be resolved. So the main things we've been doing is assisting delegations of families of the hostages when they come here. We've had, I think, over 20 different groups that came over the last few months, and we try to create events for them, both to speak to the Jewish communities. This is a meeting with the U.S. Secretary General. This is the congressional breakfast with all of New York elected officials, meeting with leaders of the Christian community and the Muslim community, the Red Cross, Mayor's Hanukkah party. In addition, this has also been a communal event. It's important for us to create a community to support one another. I think that's one of the things that has been the most meaningful and has helped me through this difficult time, is feeling that I'm among people that share my pain, share my hope, share my advocacy. And so we've, in New York, but around the country, we've been organizing runs. We call them Runs for Their Lives. In New York, they're every Sunday morning. We started October 20th, and we haven't missed a day. Some people run, many people walk. We try to mark events together. You can see the seasons changing. We marked the birthday of Kfir Bibas. For Purim, we dressed as Batman, also a Bibas reference. We flew kites. We wore flowers to mark Naama Levi's birthday. Just on Sunday, we marked the July 4th and the American hostages with a big banner that we recorded from a drone. We've also done more aggressive protests with different themes. This is in front of the UN. This is a vigil for the Shloshim. We met for a while in front of the home of the Secretary General of the UN. This is Secretary Guterres talking to us. UN Women, Colombia. And unfortunately, we've marked the many days as they passed. We never believed that we would be marking 100 days and then 150 days. One of the things we feel very moved that we were able to get, as you can see on the logos, organizations that never were on the same flyer together, to really unite the Jewish community around this topic. And this is the 100th day rally in front of the UN, where Hila Rotem Shoshani spoke after she was released. 150th day. This was at the band shell. Aviva Mundal, who was also a released hostage, was present. 6 months. And one of the things we've discovered is that while we're doing this for the hostages and for the families of the hostages, this is a two-way thing. They get a tremendous amount of hope and support when they come, especially when they come to the US and receive this kind of big communal hug. And this is one of the things that is most important to us, to give them the sense that we're behind them. But we also gain tremendous amount of hope and strength from these people who have been fighting for their family nonstop for months. And when we meet them and hug them and sing with them and hear their stories, we come out with additional strength to meet these challenges. It's an Israel Day Parade. We were very involved, not only in bringing the biggest group to march. We had about 4,000 people that followed the about 70 family members of the hostages. But more importantly, we really advocated to make this a central part of the Israel Day Parade. We felt strongly that this is not a time to stand on a float and sing uplifting, fun songs. This is a time to kind of unite together behind this mission to free the hostages. And again, not only we felt strengthened, but the families had tremendous amount of gratitude for this. And then the other piece of this that's incredibly important, and we've unfortunately gotten very good at, is trying to get media coverage. And one of the fears that we have and the hostages and the families of the hostages have is that at some point this is no longer news, and we have to make sure that this remains news, that we can find new stories, that we can find new angles, that we can create some kind of great image that reminds everyone that this is still a pressing issue. I want to end with a few things that I think we can all do. I think we all can pray. I really believe that our intention, our kavanot, our thoughts make change in this world. So I think we all have to pray. We all have to talk about this with our friends, with our colleagues. We have to keep this as something that we all continue thinking about. We have to push everyone that's at the negotiating table, if it's Israel and the Hamas and Qatar and the UN and the US and Egypt, everyone who's able to do something has to really step up and do it. And on a little note of hope, there is a new negotiation that's happening. There are people that are in that room that Rachel Goldberg talked about, the boys in the room, and we should continue sending our hopes and our demands that they do the right thing and bring them home.
Tamir Adar, Zichrono Livracha, Hisham Sha'aban Al-Sayed, Liri Albag, Idan Alexander, Kaid Farhan Al-Kadi, Hamza Al-Ziadne, Yosef Al-Ziadne, Karina Ariev, Sahar Baruch, Uriel Baruch, Zichrono Livracha, Ohed Ben Ami, Ron Benjamin, Zichrono Livracha, Agam Berger, Gali Berman, Ziv Berman, Ariel Bibas, Kfir Bibas, Shiri Bibas, Yarden Bibas, Bipin Joshi. Rom Brazlavsky, Elkana Buchbat, Yagev Buchstab, Tal Chaimi, Zichrona Levracha, Itai Chen, Zichrona Levracha, Elia Cohen, Nimrod Cohen, Amiram Cooper, Zichrona Levracha, Ariel Cuneo, David Cuneo, Guy Liboa Dalal, Emily Damari, Alexander Danzig, Ori Danino, Evyatar David, Sagi Dekel Chen, Mohammed El Atrash, Itik Algart, Matan Engrest, Carmel Gat, Daniela Gilboa, Hersh Goldberg-Polin.
הדר גולדין, זיכרונו לברכה. אורן גולדינג, זיכרונו לברכה. רומי גונן. רן גבילי, זיכרונו לברכה. גדי חגי, זיכרונו לברכה. ענבר היימן, זיכרונה לברכה. מקסים הרקין. איתן הורן. יאיר הורן. צחי עידן. עופר קלדרון. שגב כלפון. אלעד קציר, בר קופרשטיין, שי לוינסון, זיכרונו לברכה, איתן לוי, זיכרונו לברכה, נעמה לוי.
Or Levy, Oded Lifshitz, Alexander Lobanov, Shlomo Mansour, Avra Mangesto, Yoram Metzger, Omri Miran, Joshua Loitu Molel Zichrono Livracha, Abraham Munder, Eitan Moore, Gadi Moses, Omer Nutra, Tamir Nimrodi.
Yosef Ohana, Alon Ohel, Abinatan Or, Dror Or, Zichronon Livracha, Daniel Peretz, Zichronon Livracha, Chaim Perry, Natapang Pinta, Nadav Papawel, Leor Ordaif, Sursak Rumnayo, Sudisak Rinhalak, Yonatan Mordechai, Samarano, Zichronam Livracha, Almag Sarusi, Banawat Seatau, Eli Sharabi, Yossi Sharabi, Zichronam Livracha, Oran Shol, Zichronam Livracha, Yossi Sharabi, blessed memory, Oran Shol, Zichronam Livracha, Omer Shem Tov, Tal Shoham, Edan Stevie, Keith Samuel Siegel, Wachara Sraun.
Doron Steinbecher, Satyan Svanankam, Itai Svirsky, Pongesak Thena, Elizabeth Trochov, Sasha Alexander Trupanov, Omer Van Kert, Judy Weinstein, זיכרונה לברכה, אילן וייס, זיכרונו לברכה, יאיר יעקב, זיכרונו לברכה, אוהד יהלומי, ארבל יהוד, עדן ירושלמי, מתן צנגאוקר.
Thank you. I'm now going to read a prayer for the release of the hostages. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, but feel free to follow along in the English. And when I pause, you can think about any specific hostages who you'd like to pray for. Okay. Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Yosef, Moshe, Aharon, David, uShlomo, v'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yishmor v'yinsor et hane'edarim v'ne'edarot v'et hachatufim et hachatufot asher nilkachu mibatehem miyishuvehem u'mikibutzehem mitzuvei hatzava u'merchavei hamachol ושנמצאים כעת בסכנת חיים במרחב זר ועוין ביד מלאכי חבלה מסוכנים. בעבור שאנו וכל עם ישראל מתפללים ומתפללות בעבורם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם ויוציאם מחושך וצל מוות ומוסרותיהם ינתק ומצוקותיהם יושיעם ושיבם מהרה לחיק משפחותיהם ליישובם ולביתם ולשדות שמחתם ומחולם. ויקוים בהם מקרא שכתוב ופדויי אדוני ישובון ובאו ציון ברינה ושמחת עולם על ראשם, ששון ושמחה ישיגו ונסו יגון ואנחה, ונאמר אמן.
Amen.
Amen v'amen. Thank you so much, Aliza. Now we're gonna again take a breath. This has been a very, very emotional night so far, and I think what I need right now is a big hug, and we are gonna have the opportunity to have that SVIVAH style, in the sense that we are gonna have 3 amazing, beautiful rabbis and chaplains who are gonna open space in 3 different breakout rooms for anyone and everyone to go in. If you want to share, there'll be some time for sharing. If you want to listen, you can listen. If you just want to be with other people, so that we can end the night in smaller groups for greater connection and care. And so we have Rabbi Avi Solomon, Rabbi Amalia Haas, and Rabbi Rebecca Camille. All 3 of these amazing rabbis are people who have led our spiritual office hours and who are experts in holding and listening and caring. And we're so lucky that we have the opportunity to close our evening with them. And say an incredible, incredible thank you to all of our teachers tonight. An incredible thank you to everyone who's been here and who has contributed with your presence and with your thoughts in the chat and with your contributions in the small groups. Thank you. It's really, really means a lot. And I want to put some things in your mind for the future. The first of which is at the end of July, we're going to be having a night on a very different topic. Please come and learn together and be together around the topic of ADHD and Jewish women. There'll be more information about that coming. All of the different teachings and links and all the things that were raised tonight and shared will come in a future follow-up email, so that we can see all the different pieces and carry them with us as we choose. There's also a survey, which would really be wonderful if you could fill it out. Let us know what you'd like to see from SVIVAH and what's been meaningful for you and what you'd like us to think about in the future. And please stay connected to us through our private SVIVAH Facebook group. We'd love to keep supporting each other, and that's a beautiful place for you to share and connect with each other and for us to be connected deeper with you. So please do that as well. And we're going to open the breakout rooms. And as we do, I just want to close the night by wishing that this may be the last night that we ever have to have this gathering, and may our next gathering be one of celebration and happiness and return of everyone to their families and loved ones.
So I want to close with a beautiful reading that I found on Ritual Well. And as it happens, the author of that incredible piece is here in this room, which is amazing. So I have asked Robin if she would share her reading, her poem that she wrote for us in our closing, and it'd be our closing words. So Robin, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead.
Thank you, Rebecca. I attended a workshop hosted by Ritual Well on Yom HaZikaron, and we were invited to write something very personal about a difficult occasion. And I chose to write about October 7th through the lens of the national flower of Israel. They are red poppies that are, in English, we can call them anemones, or in Hebrew, they're called kalaniot, which is the name of the poem. Once, red meant something else. After all, on her way to the Emerald City, Dorothy succumbed to a deep slumber in a field of poppies. Red was the color of love on Valentine's, and of life when I birthed my children, and the delicious wine of l'chaims. Then October 7th. Now, bring them home now. Machzirim otam habaita achshav, the posters urgently decry in red. And I put down my glass of Merlot, and I kiss my dear children, and I send love notes to my Israeli family and friends. And I wish the fields of Israel's kalaniot, red poppies, were all that were needed to generate peace.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. That was so much more meaningful to have you read it. So I'm so glad you were here. And as we go out tonight, I hope that you're able to take that sense of hope, of community, of the beautiful connections that we have together with you. And thank you all for coming and for being a part of this sacred space.